The first thing people noticed was the wheelchair. The second was the torn clothes. But almost no one looked into the man's eyes, the eyes of someone carrying a secret worth billions. Every smile he received was fake, every act of kindness was tested, and every cruel laugh cut deeper than anyone could imagine. He wasn't searching for money, success, or fame. He already owned all of that. He was searching for one thing that had become impossible to buy: genuine love. What happened over the next few weeks would expose the hearts of strangers, destroy lifelong lies, and leave an entire town speechless. Before we begin, if you believe kindness matters more than wealth, and that everyone deserves a second chance, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue bringing powerful, heart-touching stories like this one. Nathan Brooks was one of the youngest billionaires in America. At just 36 years old, he owned one of the country's largest technology companies headquartered in Seattle, Washington. Magazine covers praised his business genius, television interviews admired his achievements, and investors trusted every decision he made. Yet every relationship in his life felt empty. His former fiancée had loved luxury more than loyalty. Friends disappeared whenever business opportunities ended. Even family members treated him like an unlimited bank account. Every compliment sounded rehearsed, every smile seemed connected to his fortune. Deep inside, Nathan feared he would never know whether anyone could love the man instead of the money. One evening, after another glamorous charity gala filled with fake conversations, Nathan sat alone in his penthouse staring across the Seattle skyline. His elderly mentor, Michael Harper, had once told him that character only reveals itself when there is nothing to gain. Those words echoed in his mind until an unusual plan began taking shape. He would disappear. No designer suits. No security guards. No expensive cars. No billionaire identity. He would become someone society often ignored. Over the next month, Nathan quietly arranged everything. Only his lawyer and Michael knew the truth. His company continued operating under trusted executives while he rented a tiny apartment under another name. Professional makeup artists transformed his appearance with rough skin, faded hair, scars, and an exhausted expression. He borrowed a wheelchair, wore torn clothes, and practiced moving as someone living with a disability. His destination was a quiet town outside Denver, Colorado, where nobody recognized him. The experiment began on a cold Monday morning. Nathan positioned himself outside a busy grocery store. Hundreds of people passed by. Some avoided eye contact. Others whispered cruel comments. A few teenagers laughed while recording videos on their phones. One businessman accidentally bumped into the wheelchair and continued walking without apologizing. Hours passed before anyone asked if he needed water. Nathan realized that losing visible status also meant losing basic human respect. The emotional weight became heavier each day. Restaurants refused to let him stay near their entrances. Security guards assumed he was causing trouble before he even spoke. Children stared while parents quickly pulled them away. Nathan had expected discomfort, but he had never imagined how invisible people could become simply because they appeared poor or disabled. Every insult reminded him how easily society judged appearances. Then, on a rainy Thursday afternoon, everything changed. Grace Turner worked at a neighborhood bakery. She earned modest wages, lived with her widowed mother Sarah, and spent weekends volunteering at a local shelter. Life had never been easy, but hardship had made her compassionate instead of bitter. As she walked home carrying unsold bread from the bakery, she noticed Nathan sitting alone beneath a bus shelter, soaked by the rain because the roof leaked. Without hesitation, Grace placed her own jacket over his shoulders and handed him fresh bread along with hot soup she had bought for herself. She smiled warmly, not because she expected gratitude, but because kindness came naturally. Nathan offered to repay her someday, but she simply shook her head and said that everyone deserved dignity regardless of their circumstances. That small act touched Nathan more deeply than any expensive gift he had ever received. Over the following weeks, Grace often visited him after work. Sometimes she brought coffee. Other times she simply sat beside him talking about ordinary life. She shared stories about caring for her mother, struggling to pay bills, and dreaming of opening a community cafe where lonely people could feel welcome. She never asked personal questions about his past or wondered whether he owned anything valuable. She treated him as if he already mattered. Nathan found himself looking forward to every conversation. For the first time in years, he laughed naturally. Grace reminded him that happiness could exist without luxury. She spoke kindly to everyone, from elderly neighbors to struggling veterans. Watching her interact with people convinced Nathan that her compassion wasn't an act reserved for him. It was simply who she was. Meanwhile, others in town reacted differently. Olivia, a wealthy real estate agent known for chasing successful men, publicly mocked Grace for wasting time with what she called a homeless cripple. Several people warned Grace that she was ruining her future. Yet Grace ignored every insult because she believed a person's heart mattered more than appearance. Nathan quietly observed everything. One afternoon, Grace arrived to find Nathan absent. She worried something terrible had happened until several black luxury SUVs entered the town square. Business executives stepped out wearing expensive suits, followed by television reporters and security personnel. The crowd gathered in confusion as Nathan slowly stood from the wheelchair. Silence covered the square. Grace stared in complete disbelief while the makeup team removed the final pieces of his disguise. Before everyone stood Nathan Brooks, the billionaire entrepreneur whose face regularly appeared on national news. Gasps spread through the crowd. The same people who had ignored him days earlier suddenly smiled, eager to shake his hand. Those who had insulted him quickly invented excuses for their behavior. Olivia even attempted to introduce herself, pretending they had never met before. Nathan calmly thanked everyone for revealing exactly who they truly were. He explained that the wheelchair had never been intended to mock disability but to understand how society treated those who appeared vulnerable and powerless. His experience had changed him forever. He admitted that the loneliness of being ignored had hurt more than any business failure in his life. Then Nathan turned toward Grace. With tears filling his eyes, he confessed that her kindness had restored his faith in humanity. She had offered compassion when she believed he had absolutely nothing to give in return. She had seen value where everyone else saw inconvenience. She had reminded him that love begins with respect, not wealth. Grace stood speechless. Nathan asked whether she would allow him to know her, not as a billionaire, but as the same man she had shared coffee with beneath the leaking bus shelter. Grace smiled through her tears because she had never cared about his money. She cared about the gentle heart she had discovered long before anyone else knew his true identity. Their relationship grew slowly and honestly. Nathan never rushed to impress her with expensive gifts. Instead, they visited parks, helped at community shelters, and spent evenings talking with Grace's mother. Together they invested millions into building affordable housing, disability assistance programs, and employment opportunities for people often overlooked by society. Nathan believed real success meant changing lives instead of collecting awards. Months later, when the town celebrated the opening of the Grace Community Center, nearly everyone attended. Many who had once ignored Nathan publicly apologized for judging him by his appearance. Some admitted that his experiment forced them to examine their own hearts. Others volunteered to support local charities after realizing how easily they had overlooked suffering around them. Nathan forgave them, but he never forgot the lessons he had learned. He understood that true wealth could never be measured by bank accounts, luxury cars, or company valuations. Real wealth was found in compassion freely given without expecting anything in return. Grace had been richer than many millionaires long before she ever met him because her heart overflowed with generosity. If this story has touched your heart and reminded you that kindness can change someone's entire life, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with someone you care about, and leave a comment below. Your support inspires us to keep sharing meaningful stories. Special request: before this story ends, tell us in the comments, would you still help someone if you believed they had nothing to offer you in return? Nathan and Grace eventually married in a small church surrounded by family, friends, veterans, volunteers, and ordinary people whose lives they had helped transform. There were no extravagant displays meant to impress the world. Instead, there were grateful smiles, sincere prayers, and countless stories of hope. Nathan had started his journey believing he needed to hide his fortune to find love. In the end, he discovered something even greater, that genuine love had been waiting all along in the heart of a woman who never looked at his wallet, only at his humanity. And that single act of kindness beneath a rainy bus shelter became the greatest investment either of them would ever make, proving that the richest hearts are often found where the world least expects them.